So they missed their land. Let's close the game out as fast as possible. Terror, fight their mastermind, crush them. What's going on, gamers? Hexdrinker MTG coming at you with another standard deck tech and playthrough. And today I have a deck for all my chill people out there who are not interested in being part of the standard rat race. That is $400 decks. Mono red. Screaming Nemesis is how much? 35 bucks a pop? No thanks, Jeff. Coming in at a whopping $82.50, we have what I have coined Chill Guy Blue-Green Tempo. I first found out about this deck yesterday while reviewing results for the Magic Online Standard Last Chance event, where ComboMAN took it to a 4-1 finish. And you know what? It turns out that this deck has more than 2 months of results, most of which are 5-0s in Magic Online Standard Leagues, but with the odd middling result for Magic Online Standard Challenges as well. With that said, this deck has gone through several iterations, and this is the updated version of the list, so we're going to put it to the test today. Taking a closer look at the list, our two centerpiece cards and finishes are Tolarian Terror and Eddymurk Crab, both of which receive a mana cost reduction of 1 for each instant and sorcery card in our graveyard. Tolarian Terror in particular has been a Pauper all-star for a while, as it can be cast for as low as a single blue mana and does have the built-in protection of Ward 2, which creates an extremely favorable mana exchange should our opponents be forced into a situation where they have to remove it. Eddymurk Crab, on the other hand, doesn't have protection, but can be cast at instant speed as it does have flash, and taps up to 2 creatures when it enters the battlefield. The deck's other components include the core of the Teamer Artist deck, which is This Town Ain't Big Enough, Stormchaser's Talent, and Up the Beanstalk, which can create a loop between Stormchaser's Talent and This Town Ain't Big Enough, where you can essentially bounce that permanent and one of the opponent's cards to create a bit of tempo advantage. On the topic of tempo, we have 5 copies of various bounce spells, 3 of which are Into the Flood Maw, which is a catch-all that can deal with any sort of problematic permanent. We also have 2 copies of Unsummon, which doubles as a means for us to protect our creatures from removal. The deck plays very few lands, 17, 10 of which are duals. We have a single forest and 6 islands. Our other mana sources are accounted for in 2 copies of Analyze the Pollen, as well as 4 copies of Bushwhack. Seed of Hope can be used to find lands and our finishes. It also turbocharges our graveyard. Same can be said for 4 copies of Cash Grab. Let's get into the games. As always, I want to remind you can follow along by referencing the deck list in the description section below. Also have included a sideboard guide there too. Let's get into it. Alright, on the draw, this hand has too many threats, not enough spells. This has no green and 1 land, and we're forced to keep a 5-card hand. Also not the best, but does have potential. Land off the top's good. We'll just start with Stormchaser's Talent. Add to the board, potentially create some pressure while we spin our wheels and fill the graveyard. We're up against blue-black. I'm going to choose to not play Up the Beanstalk in case they have Fairy Mastermind. I don't want to give them a free card and let them play on curve. And then we'll try and set up land 3 Up the Beanstalk plus Unsummon to try and negate that play pattern. They do have Mastermind. Okay. Kaito, Cunning Infiltrator. This was the first time I've seen this card. So it allows their creatures to loot once they damage you, and it makes ninjas. Not sure what the ultimate is, but looks like we're not going to be able to make the play that I had planned to, and we'll have to bounce this ninja token so that the Otter can finish off Kaito. Obviously have to do that during our turn, so it's a little bit mana inefficient, and then it's looking like we're going to end up giving up that card to Fairy Mastermind, putting us another card behind. So this will definitely be a game where we're foregoing card advantage in favor of tempo. Just trying to establish stuff on the battlefield and dig further into our deck to find more instant and sorceries to reduce the cost of our finishes. Yeah, so they might have a very big turn here. They could play the new Kaito or the 4-mana Kaito, Curiosity, Sheoldred. It's a Curiosity. So they do get a card for that, but we can kind of recoup that tempo once again by exchanging very favorably on mana here. So they paid 4, we paid 1. We go down a card, they went up a card. But we're also going to get rid of their Fairy Mastermind, thanks to a second prowess trigger on our Otter. And now we're getting within range of casting Terror. So if we can draw a little bit more gas, that might be enough to push us over the finish line here as far as getting established. Deep Cavern Bat, terrible for us. So we need either another fight spell or this town, or just straight up another threat. Yeah, looking awfully far behind. Untapped land at least gives us level 2 on the Stormchaser's talent and Fight Bat. So they add Spyglass Siren, and they very smartly choose to have the Bat Explore. That way, if we do get back Bushwhack, we have to trade our token for the Bat. Phenomenal draw for us here. So we're actually going to bounce the Bat and our Stormchaser's talent. That gives us an additional trigger off of Beanstalk. And now when we cast the Terror, we get an additional trigger again. So we're starting to catch up a little bit on cards. I'm going to hold down Unsummon here so that we can bounce the Curiosity again later. And I think their hand is probably too clunky. They just choose to give up there. So I imagine there's like multiple Curiosities, no removal. And yeah, just a couple triggers there, getting us some value and getting us back into a game that looked pretty much lost. So here I'm going to trim on some Unsummons and put in some green removal in, what is it? Pick Your Poison and Pawpatch Formation. I'm not going to overdo it. I think yeah, so 2 Pick Your Poisons, 1 Pawpatch, and I forgot what the 4th card was. Sounds pretty decent. Oh yeah, put in some 2 copies of Unable to Scream, just to be able to deal with Fairy Mastermind for its trigger, and you know, potentially Sheoldred and Enduring Curiosity. One lander there's pretty sketchy, but we're on the draw and it was a Surveil land. We do hit land on top, so turn 2 is going to be double talent for us, getting on board quite nicely. Hopefully we get to resolve both. I don't mind trading a token for something like a Go for the Throat, or even a Cut Down, frankly. But those don't seem too good against our deck, aside from exactly killing a token, so I imagine they may have trimmed some. They have Mastermind. They choose to explore here. We do see Sheoldred, so I'm thinking that's either like a one-of main deck, or that they've sided some in, you know, kind of giving us credit for being tempo, kind of a tempo deck. So they choose to Unsummon, which makes sense, and get in for 4. So here we want to hit land drop off of Cash Grab, and then probably deal with one of the flyers. Green source would be amazing. We can also cast Unable to Scream. So we get a fast land. That's like a perfect thing to hit off of Cash Grab, and here I'm going to Pick Your Poison, have them choose any of these flyers would be good for us. We either get 2 power for 1 mana, or we get our card back. So that's pre-combat, and as you can see, the others are doing a great job kind of keeping us in this race. If you can string together 2, 3, 4 spells, it's the damage adds up very quickly. This deck enables kind of like an aggressive auto start a lot better than something like the Team of Prowess deck, or like the quote-unquote Otters deck. So here I'm going to pre-combat Unable to Scream. They missed their 4th land, which was huge for us, so no Sheoldred. I'm going to cast that Unable to Scream on the Mastermind so they don't get the trigger off our Beanstalk. And second Prowess trigger resolves, so there's not going to be any cut down here on our Otters. If they want to kill them, it's going to have to be with Go for the Throat. And they do have one, or an Anoint, of course. But that wouldn't make sense given we showed them Terror. I imagine they cut that before they cut down. Here's another Spyglass, so another chance at a 4th land if they didn't naturally draw it. And there's their 4th land, but it is a fast land that comes in tapped. They make the mistake of attacking with their Fairy Mastermind there. That might be big, as it gives up on a chump for them. We're just looking for a big threat here. This town is great. If I can't have a threat, I want that. I think I should pre-combat Bushwhack this bat, and then You know, if they choose to chump with their Fairy Siren, I'm happy with that. And now we're going to have a massive. This town ain't big enough. We may have spent the Aura last turn to remove the Mastermind, but now we have an answer to Sheoldred as well. Also, Unsummon straight up, you know, answers it. They go with Enduring Curiosity over Sheoldred. Maybe trying to hit lands, maybe trying to hit removal. And I think this is going to be too much for them. So now we get 2 triggers. We bounce our Stormchaser's Talent and their Curiosity. So once again, a very mana efficient tempo play for us. Second this town and an Eddymurk Crab. I mean, this game is all but finished and we don't even have to show them. They're already convinced of it. So there you go. 1-0 against blue-black. Match number 2. This hand, not amazing, but serviceable. I'm going to go with another turn 1 Stormchaser's Talent. Looks like we're up against another blue-black deck. And yeah, just the same approach, same logic. Trying to apply some pressure early. This is surely going to be our bounce spell that gets taken. It does. Here I'm going to try and set up Seed of Hope since we drew another land with Hedge Maze. I don't want the land, so that makes it even more likely that we'll miss now. But kind of don't have a choice really. And we do end up missing, but at least we get a cost. Nice. We had a cost reduction of 3 on our Terror. So not great, but it is something. Okay, there's Spyglass Siren. They're going to hold up 2 mana. Okay. Cash Grab's beautiful. Here I should have probably waited on that, but I'm thinking I want to enable my attack with the Utter. They do have the counterspell. So it still adds to our graveyard to discount the Terror, but it's not going to make it, you know, cost 1 next turn. So there they go for the land drop. They hit it. It's a tapped land. And they're holding up 2 mana. So yeah, I'm not going to proactively Flood Maw, and I'm not playing around a second Phantom Interference. I feel like we're getting too far behind here for me to really sandbag the Serpent. I need to get on board. If they have it, you know, so be it. It's not going to die to a go for the throat, right? Because we do have Ward. They have a Mastermind. That's fine. So we're going to take 4 down to 15. They choose to hold back the Siren. Okay. 16, they got to 18. Thanks to the Bat. And they hold up 4 mana. So that's probably an Enduring Curiosity again. Here we have level 2 on Stormchaser. Or Flood Maw. Okay, they're chumping our Terror this early in the game. That's a bit surprising. So we can get at this town. Here I choose to set that up just for future turns to be able to protect the Terror if it doesn't die now. And just to give us some sort of value, since we are kind of in the early developmental stages of this game. They do have the Curiosity. I choose not to bounce it now. I want to see what sort of play they commit to before bouncing it, because they can just replay it and get cards anyway. So I'm going to bounce it in combat. They can still replay before damage, but that'll tap them out. They choose to kill it with Go for the Throats. This is very curious. I'm not convinced that that's a good play. That Go for the Throat could have just outright killed our Terror there. They draw 2 cards, and they have an answer to our Utter. Do they have 5th land? No. Well, now we're in a pretty good spot, because we're still pressuring them, and we have our little pseudo loop, a little inefficient loop. So let's get rid of that Bat. And then if they want one of these cards, they're going to have to commit it again. It's not very impactful for the mana compared to the type of stuff we're doing. So get in for 5. Hold up protection for the Terror. And now I'm forced to decide, do I want to bounce this Mastermind so they don't draw a card? I'm going to end up doing it. If they want to spend 4 mana to kill the Terror, that's fine. We have a bit of a value loop going and we don't have that much pressure on us. I don't want them to like hit land drops and then multi-spell. And they have a Phantom Interference. So that's fine. I get to draw a card. And, you know, it's most of their mana spent for the turn. The downside is we lose this town to the Bat. And I think we're already level 2. So level 2 on the Stormchaser's Talent. Bushwhack, phenomenal draw. Never didn't have it. Yes, we're going to whack that bat via Tolarian Terror since it does have ward. Oh, it was level 1. Okay, because we bounced it to our hand previously with this town. Okay, so I'll just get another this town. And they kill our Otter in response. That's fine. I'm going to attack first. Give them the choice to block if they want. They won't. And then we'll be in the same spot as last turn where we need to decide if we want to hold up to protect the Terror or if we want to bounce something so they don't draw a card. And I'm thinking I'll probably make that same play. 3 damage isn't nothing. Okay, I don't end up making that play. So this is a pivotal point in this game. I basically decide to kind of forget about staying in the race for cards and kind of matching them card for card and really try and apply pressure and kind of adopt an aggressive approach to the game. They very nicely deploy 2 huge problems for us. So we're going to have to bounce that Slasher. But the Terror is safe with them only having 2 mana. And they've already spent 2 counter spells. So imagine if they had another counter, it would be 3 steps ahead. Here, if I would Bushwhack before Beanstalking, it would be to Bushwhack the Deep Cavern Bat. So I think they're going to draw the card regardless. And again, my goal isn't to fight them on cards. It's to kind of fight them on tempo. So I'm going to keep that Sleight of Hand just for an extra spell to get a prowess trigger and potentially get some selection that we need the following turn. As we are going to play the Stormchaser's talent. Let's get our this town back. Now we have Stormchaser plus hold up this town. And they're put in a position where they need to decide if they chump. Pretty close game here. They don't have a man land, which is huge. It just makes the race math way better for us. Okay, here's our Stormchaser, and yeah, if they redeploy Slasher, we have protection for Terror in case they have 4th land. Go for the throat. Floodpitch Drown is very nice. It lets them continue to pressure. This is a 2-turn clock, so I think we're going to be forced to use our this town here defensively. On the Mastermind, I think. I don't want them to get another stun counter off with their Floodpitch Drowner. Our Beanstalk trigger doesn't let them trigger Mastermind since it will be the first card we draw this turn. Here's that Curiosity again. Okay, we're down to 6. And they can still play Slasher. So yeah, the downside of letting them draw this many cards is that they make land drops and can multi-spell. So they don't Slasher here, they're holding up Fairy Mastermind. Here I decide not to pre-combat Bushwhack. I'm going to offer them the trade on both of their creatures. They need to give me both for the Terror. If they choose to not block, then post-combat I'll Bushwhack. And if they did block, then I'll just deploy Stormchaser's talent and dig for some more threats. I should have cast Sleight of Hand first here just to get a sense of what my options are before committing to the Bushwhack. But we do kill the Curiosity. And now see what we have going. Oh no, here I'm going to Bushwhack again. Off the Otter on the Floodpitch Drowner. Okay. So that's why I chose to not Sleight of Hand. It makes more sense now. Whether it's correct or not, I'm not sure. But this ends the loop with this town as we don't have a means of resetting this talent at this point in time. Of course, we are safe from a cut down there since we did have 2 prowess triggers resolved before going for that Bushwhack, and they would have to choose between Mastermind and killing our Otter if they have a go for the throat. This instant that makes the 2 fairies, this is a card I hadn't seen in blue-black before, but that's very good here. So they choose to attack us with one of the fairies. And critically, they play a man land on this turn. So this changes the entire dynamic. So here, my play is going to be play Stormchaser's talent, level 2, get this town, bounce their token. That gives me Terror as being lethal, and then the 2 others as being lethal in conjunction with one another. So they need to kill Terror, or like chump Terror, kill an Otter, and then untap, kill my Otter, and activate Manland. I don't know if this was necessarily the best play. At the time, I thought it was pretty good, but maybe it was a bit aggressive. I think I could have possibly slowed this down. But again, because they had so many cards early, they were able to make this many lands. And yeah, there's 4 mana towards killing the Terror, and now they're going to have to chump one of these Otters. There's a Mastermind. Some attacking for lethal. But on the other hand, they have so many like evasive attackers. I don't really have the luxury of sitting back, so I'm not sure how I could have played this better. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you would have done. So here's that man land, which just tells me they must have removal. And you know, they've drawn so many cards, how can they not? And they actually do it via Kaito. And it's game 1, so it makes sense that they would still have that in their deck. So Kaito stuns our Otter, and we lose a very close and competitive game 1. Here I'm going to do the same thing as I did in match 1, just trimming on some bounce spells for some removal. I'm going to trim a Seed of Hope as well, and one of the Eddymurk Crabs. We get Pawpatch, Pick Your Poison, and Unable to Scream. Yeah, we'll give it another shot. So this time we're on the play. And this hand, pretty good actually. We just need some sort of permanent to bounce with this town for value. If we can get a Stormchaser's Talent or a Beanstalk. Okay. A bit of a staring contest early on. Nobody's done anything yet. They pass on their turn 2 as well, I believe. Yep. Yeah, we have no permanents. We have no like wheel spinning instant or sorceries. Just answers. And I think I want to hold off on the Bushwhack for now, as we may naturally draw land. Here they have Ghost Vacuum. I'm not convinced this is a very effective card versus us. But in a situation where you're only adding, you know, 1 spell per turn to your graveyard, 1 or 2 spells, it can be very effective in slowing down, kind of enabling our finishes. So here I choose to get rid of it with Pick Your Poison, have them sacrifice an artifact. Sleight of Hand shows us another Bushwhack. I'd rather cast that and add an instant or sorcery to my graveyard than just play a land. It's essentially the same thing, but the one gives us the cost reduction. They choose to counter, strangely enough. Not sure why, maybe just to spend mana. And they have a Kaito on an empty board. So, yeah, I think typically you can outpace a Ghost Vacuum with something like multiple cash grabs. But in that situation, it would have been very effective against us, so I got rid of it. So I see their Kaito and I kind of match them on board with a Terror. They could have emblemed here to make a 5/6, but they chose to tap our guy down and paid the ward. That's pretty good, but we have some answers to it. So they get in for 4. They're not going to get to draw cards this turn with Kaito since they activated it. Second Terror is amazing, so here we can get rid of Bat and cast Terror into a tapped out opponent. And now, yeah, let's see. I mean, surely they'll emblem and just attack past it. Actually, that doesn't make sense because we can attack them back if they don't have an answer to our Terror. So they do stun. And here they're going to counter our wall trigger with Tishana's Tidebinder. Kind of cute, but it's whatever. Nice. So we'll probably Bushwhack that on our turn and try not to get too far behind. Second Ghost Vacuum, we've already deployed our threats and added more instant and sorceries since removing the first one. So I think... not exactly sure what their cost is at this time, but it's pretty low. So we'll just Bushwhack. Still hurting a little bit for a value permanent to bounce with this town. I'm going to hold off on killing Ghost Vacuum. I'd rather kill a flyer that can block for Kaito or apply more pressure to us. We're already at 12. So I'll play the land and pass. And yeah, they're going to start filling up the vacuum. I think I would just start vacuuming creatures at this point. I think the game is getting to a place where my stuff is sufficiently cheap, but I could be wrong. Here's their first turn where they get to draw a card with Kaito, so they Surveil. They ditch a cut down and pass with all their mana up. Eddymurk Crab is a phenomenal draw for us. I'm going to attack into Kaito. And they have Malcolm to potentially chump. So here I can either Pawpatch it or play Eddymurk. I decide to play Eddymurk so that if they have Phantom Interference, I can pay for it. I think it's more important that I resolve this than killing Malcolm. And both will allow me to get past and kill Kaito. So we do resolve the crab. Kaito goes down. Right? He does. And now we can also upkeep Pawpatch their Malcolm to make them spend mana on their turn if they choose to protect it. So looking like a pretty good spot for us. They do have 2 man lands, so that is an option for them. Thankfully they didn't kill our crab there on end of turn. Okay, we do take care of Kaito, sorry, of Malcolm. So we're untapping into a very powerful board. Okay, Slasher is huge for them. And they do have the removal spell. So now this game is kind of turned on its head. We don't have good attacks. They had a very high life total. And here I just decide to make the tempo play of bouncing their Slasher and hoping for maybe another bounce spell the following turn, or another Eddymurk Crab. So attack for 10, pass the turn. We're at 8. They have to choose between attacking us and playing a Slasher. They're going to redeploy it. And yeah, obviously it doesn't make sense to Bushwhack that. Here we have a cash grab. So again, just any big threat will be great. Preferably the Eddymurk so we can get in for another 10. We do find it. That's huge. We also have the option of unable to scream, but I think I would prefer the added pressure, as we can take a hit from Slasher and from the land, because that would put us at 1. 6 down to 2, and then around half of that down to 1. So they're at 1 as well. Super close game. There goes Vacuum a Bat, and they add a Fairy Mastermind. So they're drawing straight gas as well. And what did they draw for the turn? Okay, they choose to activate their Vacuum. They get to take our Bushwhack and tap our guys. So they put us down to... If they attack with both, they put us down to 2. So that doesn't make sense, because we can attack back and kill them. Slasher puts us down to 2 as well, without Fairy Mastermind. And then if we draw any sort of bounce spell or removal on our turn, we take it. And land. So we're going to attack here. They're going to block us. We get a Bushwhack. We can Bushwhack the Slasher, but they have a land to finish us off. So very close and interesting match. Let me know how you would have played it differently. I'm sure I might have missed a winning line. But yeah, it just goes to show that this deck is keeping up with one of the tier 1 decks in the format. So pretty cool. And here I just want to make sure that they do realize that they have their lands available. And yep, there you go. Unfortunately, we don't have an Unsummon. But we do mill 1. So, alright. 1-1. Match 3. On the draw again. This hand, no green, but we can manipulate our draw a little bit with Sleight of Hand. Plus, we get to see another card. They show us Forsaken Miner. So this is at diamond level. I'd seen another deck earlier that day that plays this card, as well as some other sacrifice pieces and like braids for a bit of a stacks angle. One of the Japanese players posted a list on X. And I do think we're playing against that. So we have Case of the Stash Skeleton turn 2. We're going to have to start utilizing our bounce spells here to deal with some tokens. That's going to give them good value, of course. But, you know, again, we're a tempo deck. So sometimes you need to forego value for aggression and board dominance. So here we're going to take a little bit of damage, but then deal with that token the following turn. Here we have Corpses of the Lust. This is an enchantment that buffs all skeletons and gives them haste. Then they can return it to their hand on the end step if they have... I forgot what the name of the mechanic is. I'll pull up the card again shortly. If they have had a permanent go to their graveyard. So yeah, we're going to start off by bouncing our talent and one of their skeletons. Then bounce the other one and attack back. Just make sure we're staying in the game as far as pressure. I don't want to exchange my... Utter for their Minor, that's a losing proposition. Just make sure we start chipping away and get within range at some point. So the mechanic is called Descend. We got a reader! Okay, so the Case of the Stash Skeleton has now been solved, but they can only use the Demonic Tutor mode at sorcery speed. So here, just going to make sure we hit our land drop. We do have just the one forest, so it's going to have to be an island. And yeah, just working towards making our really potent top end cheaper. So here I choose to not play Sleight of Hand. I could Sleight of Hand and Terror, but I'm holding it for next turn to get an additional prowess trigger out of it and potentially more damage out of the otters. So just getting in for the 3. Kind of surprising that they didn't spend 3 mana, since they are pretty low to the ground deck. This makes sense. They have a Torch the Tower for our second otter. Okay, there is a Restless Vents on their side as well. That is, of course, the 2/3 Menace land that ramages when it attacks. And yeah, now they're going to have to make a pretty mana inefficient trade. So the Forsaken Miner actually triggers itself here, since they did commit a crime. So that's a pretty sweet play. And the Corpses of the Lust does give the Miner haste, so it's kind of just like a 4 mana play to kill to exile our Terror. So we're getting pretty low here. Seed of Hope's nice, a little life bolster. We do find another threat. Just digging for like a Eddymurk Crab or a Tolarian Terror. Bounce spell's decent to kind of keep us in this scrappy game. They're gonna have another Haste Skeleton next turn. I'm prepared to take 3 from the Miner, but I'm going to definitely bounce the other Skeleton token. Thankfully, they don't have enough mana to both do that and activate Restless Vents. So I prefer to keep an otter here. I don't want to see another removal spell. They have land, which is great. Okay, so we're going to bounce the token like we spoke about. Down to 4 now. And yeah, I mean, if we untap with both otters, we have 2 spells, our draw step, and then whatever Sleight of Hand shows us. So we can definitely chain together 9 points of damage. Okay, here they're solving the case. I imagine they have to kill one of the otters just to be safe. They go with Final Vengeance. That's really curious to me. I would have thought that they have another Torture Tower. Maybe they went for a better card and had the Final Vengeance in hand. Our draw is phenomenal. I think Eddymurk Crab all but closes this game out. Just going to make sure we pump up this otter as much as possible and set ourselves up to level up the Stormchaser's talent the following turn. We'll add another otter to the board. And then if they choose to play the enchantment and fire up the vents, we can just tap both things. So pretty competitive game here. Down to the wire, but it looks like we're going to comfortably get over the finish line in the end, thanks to Eddymurk Crab. There's that Miner again. And yeah, just waiting for priority at beginning of combat. And we'll tap both of those down. So now if they don't have removal, we're done. Even if they did, we could just level up our talent and cast a 1 casting cost spell to give both our otters prowess, but I'm pretty sure we have a bounce spell. Yep, there's an Into the Flood Maw. So we'll level up, bounce the Hex Mage, and get in for 9 damage. Cool. So sideboarding, I'm just going to sideboard as if I'm sideboarding against an aggressive red deck. Get a couple of Herbology Instructors. Minor Misstep. They showed us some cheap 1 mana removal. It's a pretty nice exchange if we get to protect one of our top end cards with that. I'm going to put in 1 Ghost Vacuum. I don't want to draw 2, and they haven't shown me kind of enough graveyard elements to warrant both. I wasn't too familiar with their list at this point in time. So if I see something else that leverages the graveyard, I will board in the second one. And then I think Unable to Scream is not as effective against them as something like a mid-range black deck. So I'm going to keep those out for now. Sounds pretty good. Pain-free mana, both colors, plenty of spells. We have one of our finishes. They have a good start here with Minor. And so do we with our Stormchaser's talent. We can keep pace with them as far as aggression. Okay, so they have the same start as last game. I think this town is probably our play here. Very nice value. They, of course, going to get to solve their case again, but this match is not about value, as we showed in game 1. Bitter Reunion here. This is a great for us. If they're going to spend their turn trying to hit their land or whatever, they don't hit their land. So they're very, very far behind now. May not look like it now, but we're just going to pull super far ahead this turn. Just establish our board and set up our graveyard. So here I'm going to Sleight of Hand to try and find a land. If we don't, we'll Analyze the Pollen. Yeah, we don't need the second this turn at this point. Just trying to turbocharge the graveyard. Get in for a big otter hit. And just come in from every angle here. Major us. Sure, it makes our stuff cheaper. Get in for 2. We're not blocking. Another miner, sure. They miss their land again. Okay, that's unfortunate. Yeah, so now we're just gonna start slamming. Okay, everything costs 1 and 2. We can deploy both threats, and I will. Miners, of course, cannot block, so they're at 10. Here's a Terror, and then I'm just gonna make sure that they have no more pressure, so we'll tap those down at the beginning of combat. Another Bitter Reunion. I kind of feel for our opponents here. You know, they're not getting to do the thing. Okay, there's third land. And Lithomancer's Barrage. This is a very nice card against us. I choose not to unsummon. We have plenty of action still, and I think I'd rather push the tempo. We can kill this turn if we cast 2 spells, and there's a cash grab. Plus, if we draw a land, we can level up Stormchaser's talent, so we have plenty of options. But Lithomancer's Barrage, they came ready. They are not a chill guy. And there you have it, 2-1 with Chill Guy Blue-Green. And that does it for the games. As always, please be sure to let me know which deck you would like to see a deck tech and playthrough for next in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, you can see this channel's other videos by clicking right here. And if you would like YouTube to serve you up more of my videos as I release them, the best way to do that, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.